This hurts me to say. The Baltimore Orioles are just better than the Toronto Blue Jays. Bottom line, that's it.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. So, I'm Braden Wasco. He's Carter First. Follow us on Twitter, Braden5 Wasco, Carter First 2, as well on TikTok and Instagram at Locked On Blue Jays. Drop a subscription if you're watching here on YouTube. It really helps us out. We notice a lot of you guys aren't subscribed that do watch, so it really does help us, and it keeps us at the top of your page, so you get all the new Blue Jays info. This sucks, to be honest with you. Like, watching the Blue Jays play the Orioles is just the worst thing ever, probably. They lose 7-2 yesterday, and Grayson Rodriguez just carved us up. Kevin Gausman got absolutely shelled. The home run ball is just deadly because we just can't match it. Carter, I don't know. You know what? Before we get into all this, actually, Carter, we did have a slow pitch game today. I want to start on a good note. We had a slow pitch game today. First of the year, the mixed team, we were out there. No practice. I was back at shortstop. I took a little bit of a leave of absence from shortstop last year. I had, as what they call the yips. So it was a very, very tough year for me defensively. And then I moved in the outfield. It was fine. Hitting was fine. Went back today, Carter, and I feel better. I got about 900 baseballs to me today, and I feel better.
Yeah, and last year you were looking like 2021 Bo Bichette. This year, it's interesting because now our slow pitch league put in a new rule where you have men's balls and now you have women's balls. So I was pitching today, and I mean, pitching isn't the hardest thing in slow pitch. Like, it's definitely harder to play shortstop, but it's definitely a hard feeling to grasp when you have a men's ball that's significantly bigger than a women's ball. A women's ball is almost like a regular baseball, and it takes me back to like my high school days and like my growing up playing baseball all my life. It's like chucking that across the diamond. And then all of a sudden you get a ball that's like 2 times the size. So I had one terrible throw. I know you had one terrible throw, but I mean, it is what it is. First game of the year. That was my first time throwing a baseball in like 8 months. So, I mean, the expectations were fairly low. We do end up getting the win, but my at-bats were worse than some of the Blue Jays players. I know yours probably weren't as good as well. But, we get the win. The Blue Jays don't get the win. So, I mean, we're getting results here.
Yeah, it's you know what, I miss slow pitch so much. It's not like real baseball, but it still gives me the taste of trying to win and trying to, whatever. We're back-to-back champions. So we're trying to make it a three-peat, but now 2 more teams joined that are really good. One bad team, one team that's horrible that joined as well. And then there's 2 teams that are always competing with us. A bunch of teams are trying to upgrade to catch us, I guess. So we'll see how that goes. Game 1, we didn't kill them. We didn't kill him by any sense of the word, but a couple defensive lapses that we don't see. My brother Jarvis, which you guys know, I don't think made a single error last season in the outfield, would dive for balls in first game, and he lets one get by him and beat him in center field. So it was just a not, no spring training. We didn't go out and hit balls. We weren't throwing it around. So tough look, but we still got the job done. We got the win. What was it, 12-10? Pretty low scoring game too. But
yeah, 12-10, not great. But I mean, you see what happens when the Toronto Blue Jays don't get a spring training. Kevin Gausman doesn't get a spring training, and then, you're not ready for the games. You don't have the practice. You don't have that little bit of, you got to work out the kinks, right? And we didn't get the opportunity to do that. So unfortunately, we had to use the first game of the regular season to work out those kinks. But hey, we get the win. And one of those teams that has upgraded to try to compete with us has actual bald eagle, believe it or not, the guy in the flesh. Dallin Wilton is now on that team as well. So he transferred from a different team. They're looking to try to end our dynasty a little bit of what we got going on here, trying to get 3 in a row. We'll see how it goes. They scored a ton of runs their first game. We actually are kind of like the Blue Jays. We don't score a lot of runs, but we usually play pretty good defense. And I mean, pitching a slow pitch again isn't the hardest thing, but we get good pitching, you get good defense, you kind of put it all together. We just don't beat ourselves. And that usually works pretty well in mixed slow pitch. In men's, can't really say the same thing. You actually got to hit the ball in men's. But saying that, I guess we do have a game to cover. I'm not necessarily excited to cover this game because, like you said in the intro, it just looked like the Baltimore Orioles were better. Like every facet of the game, the pitching, their lineup construction. They weren't even getting necessarily like huge production out of guys like Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, just looking at their stat lines here. 1 for 5 and 1 for 5. Ryan Mountcastle, the Blue Jays killer, is 0 for 5. You get guys like Austin Hayes, who you can't let beat you when you have such a good lineup in the Baltimore Orioles. And Anthony Santander, he's had a slow start to the season. Of course, he tries to pick it up against the Toronto Blue Jays. It's just one of the most typical things of all time. But Braden, I guess I'll throw it back to you. What did you notice in this baseball game?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Kevin Gausman didn't have his best day. It's tough. It's tough to say that he didn't have his best day. He was fine, I thought. It's just this Orioles team is so good. And the Blue Jays again and again get beat by the long ball. We just can't keep up to teams like this. And I think that's the worst part of what we're seeing is that the Toronto Blue Jays aren't a contender. We're not even close. Looking at this game, we're not even close. This all could change. We could win tomorrow's game on whatever, somehow, and maybe my mindset switches. But from the one game that I saw today, I have no faith. I have no hope. Like, it's getting drained from me in these losses because, like I've talked about against the Tigers and the White Sox and the Pirates, those aren't the teams that we need to be grading ourselves on. This could be grading this team on. And now we're playing a team that we're going to have to compete with down the stretch and in lots more games this season, and we can't keep up. The Blue Jays cannot keep up against this Baltimore Orioles team. And that was very evident today. I don't know. I got on the side here and seems about right because honestly, I think that's exactly sort of what we expected to happen. To be honest with you, I thought Vlad had a really good game. Home run. He was good defensively. He's really not my complaint. It's just like everything. The entire team. They can't put it together. There's no mesh. There's no meshing. It's just painful to watch. I mean, Daniel Vogelback doesn't have a good game today. I don't know, Carter. I don't know. I don't know what to think. It's only one game against the Orioles, but in the same sense, it's sort of exactly what I expected to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that we're 10.5 games back on the Baltimore Orioles at this point in the season. We're about a third of the way, just over the way through the season, and the division seems like it's already lost. And we're going to go into tomorrow's game a little bit more, but we don't even have a starter named for tomorrow's game. We can have some pretty good guesses about who it's going to be. But you have Grayson Rodriguez, who is a very good pitcher, but you get an even better one tomorrow or the day we're recording this. So today,
yeah.
Corbin Burns. It doesn't get any easier. And like looking at this team, Kevin Gausman again, like there was a few pitches that, I mean, the pitchers it happens. You have mistake pitches, but it seems like the Baltimore Orioles just take advantage of every single time they have this opportunity. Look at the Toronto Blue Jays. They get 7 hits off Grayson Rodriguez and they score 2 runs, only 1 earned. Thank God that I think it was Jordan Westberg who just absolutely launched the ball over their first baseman's head. I think Mountcastle was playing first this game. And then Dalton Varsho comes up and he hits a huge triple to drive in 1 run. But then you get the next inning and then it's the lead is just gone. Whatever you worked for is just gone. They go down 3-1 and it's 5-1 and then the game's over at that point. Because the Toronto Blue Jays, we've watched this song and dance every single game this year. It seems like this team just can't come back in baseball games. This offense just cannot compete with the Baltimore Orioles offense.
No, they can't. And that's exactly, I mean, I hate to keep saying this, but this is exactly what I expected was going to happen. Me and you have talked about it so many times going into this series, is that the Blue Jays just aren't going to compete. And that's exactly what happened. They did not compete. It's painful, Carter. I mean, again, I'll go over some lines here. Kevin Gausman, 6 1/3 innings, 6 hits given up, 6 runs, 3 strikeouts and a walk. Looking at Grayson Rodriguez's line, 6 2/3, 7 hits, only 2 runs given up. That's the difference. They're giving up pretty much the same hits, but wow, the damage has already been done. 4 strikeouts, and the Blue Jays did not earn a walk today. Not one. In the entire ball game, not one of our batters were walked. I don't know. And I hate to say, like I always say, like, oh, the Blue Jays got to have more fight in them, a little bit more bark. Vlad hits the home run. What's everybody else doing?
Yeah, you had that Dalton Varsho triple. I mean, other than that, like, like it says, it's the tail of the long ball. This team just has shown it, but time and time again, they can't hit home runs. And the Baltimore Orioles, they don't get like a ton of hits. I mean, I guess they have 10. I can't say 10 is not a lot of hits, because 10 is a lot of hits, but 4 of those are home runs. And they account for 5 runs in the ball game. So it's one of those things, right? It's just so hard to watch, man. And actually, they accounted for 6 runs in the ball game. So, man, I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. And now I'm so tired, man. I'm so tired of watching the Blue Jays. We have such a busy schedule with all the slow pitch stuff. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But I come back. We have the Blue Jays game on in the dugout as we're playing this game. And I come back, and it seems like every single time we come back, the Baltimore Orioles have scored another run. So just going over like the scoring summary here. Santander, home run. Colton Cowser, double. Austin Hayes, home run. Austin Hayes, home run. Urias, home run. There's so many goddamn home runs. And the Toronto Blue Jays get a Vladdy home run, which was awesome. I love seeing Vladdy launch. But looking at some of these at-bats again, like Jano looked really bad today. I know people have their off days, but Jano was one guy that I noticed did not look like he was having good swings. He had one, I think it was a changeup that Grayson Rodriguez threw. I think it was also in the 3rd inning. One of the worst swings I've ever seen. He just absolutely got sorted. Daniel Vogelback, again, you shouldn't like, it's Daniel Vogelback, kind of like whatever in a sense, but still, he's hitting 4 in your lineup. I know he's been hot, but you can't go out and put up a dud like Daniel Vogelback just did in the 4 spot. I mean, this team, if they want to compete, if they want to make the playoffs, if they want to make up ground on any of these AL East teams, they're going to have to score runs. They're going to have to be able to win some of these games. And again, Grayson Rodriguez is a great pitcher, but I feel like we've said this a million times where this team just gets beat by good pitching. At some point, you're going to have to beat the good pitching to make up games, to actually assert yourself in the AL East and just the entire MLB, that you're not a joke. You're actually a serious contender. And this team has showed time and time again that they just cannot beat good teams.
Yeah, Carter. I mean, I honestly, a little bit of me, sorry, I had to keep my headphones plugged in because they're dying on me because I'm an idiot and didn't plug them in. At the end of the day, Carter, I just don't know what to say anymore. It's exactly what we expected. I have nothing else to say. This is pinpoint almost to the T what I expected from this ball game. This sucks because now we're comparing ourselves to these teams that are in the playoffs and we're not close. And I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. I know what we're about to talk about in the next segment is what do you do with Bo and Vlad? What's happening there? Is there going to be a extension? Are we trading them? And a little bit of me doesn't want to think about trading them at all. But then again, I don't know what else helps this ball club. And that's frustrating. We cover this team every day. What are you doing if you're just the average fan that tunes in once in a while and it seems like every time you turn on the TV, the Blue Jays are getting beaten?
Yeah, I don't think you can blame people for not watching every single Blue Jays game at this point. Again, this series is going to be such a telling story of how this season will probably end up going. And again, like I'll say it a million times because he is a good pitcher. Grayson Rodriguez is good, but Corbin Burns is also good. Kyle Bradish is also good. So you get at least 3 out of 4 games this series that these teams are going to have good starting pitching. And as we always say on this team, our starting pitching is really good. And look what they did to Kevin Gausman today. Good teams can beat good starting pitching. And there's so much more that I want to get into. The Vladdy Bo stuff, I mean, we'll get into all that coming up. But there's also, where's Joey Votto, some injury updates. But we're going to start out with focusing on Vladdy and Bo, and we're going to get into all that coming up.
Today's episode, I was going to say game. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. As you guys all know, the Blue Jays don't win baseball games. So it makes this series quite easy to bet on for myself. I am going to be hammering every Blue Jays under. I am going to be hammering the Blue Jays losing because, especially when we don't have a starter named for tomorrow, I have to bet against the Blue Jays. Actually, I probably won't bet against the Blue Jays because I can't bring myself to do that. But I might just not bet, or I'll go bet on other games because I don't want to bet against my Blue Jays, but it's getting hard to stop passing up on the money. It's winner take all time also in the NBA and NHL. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
All right, so
Sorry. I'm just going to say that was tough.
Sure.
I mean, that first segment killed me. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, when they lose to certain teams, Carter, and I'm just sorry I'm taking this back. I told you could kick this one off, but when you lose to certain teams, you can make excuses and you can find stuff to pick out. This game, I couldn't. All I got was this team is just far and above what the Toronto Blue Jays are showing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll give you 3 positives from this game. Vladdy launch, that's a positive. Always like to see Vladdy launching. George Springer, we kind of talked about in the last episode. He might be turning a little bit of a leaf here. Again, he goes 2 for 4 today. His at-bats are looking a lot better. Obviously, he's been so good in the field. He's good on the base path. So if he can start finding himself a little bit, this guy doesn't have to go out and hit 320. But if he can go hit 270, I'm going to be pretty happy with that. And the only other positive I have is that at least Kevin Gausman did go 6 1/3 innings, just ate up some of those innings. Then you had Brendan Little, who is not going to pitch in high leverage. And then you had the new guy from the Phillies, Ryan Burr, who looked pretty good again, gave up 1 run. But I mean, at that point, the game's over. I'm not taking too much away from that. But yeah, I mean, if this team could somehow go out today and beat Corbin Burns with either Bowden Francis or Trevor Richards, which we'll get into in the third segment, I don't know if I'm going to be all the way back in on this team, but I mean, I'm going to feel a lot better than I feel right now. I'll tell you that for free. So saying that, we're going to get into some Vladdy and Bo stuff. So obviously, this has been a discourse that has been going on for a very long time, especially this season. If this team is first in the AL East or second in the AL East, even if they're in a wild card spot, there's probably not anyone talking about even the possibility of trading Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And Ross Atkins so far this season has been pretty quiet. You look at these trade rumors, didn't really say anything to address these until this last weekend. So Ross Atkins says the Blue Jays continue their dialogue and try to extend the contracts of both Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And the goal is to obviously extend them rather than to trade them, according to Ross Atkins. So again, I'm going to go into another quote on Ross Atkins here. He just says, "It doesn't make any sense for us. There will be the occasional times as you're talking to other executives where they'll ask you if you'll consider, and we just say it's not something that we've spent any time on because they're so talented and such great teammates. They are attractive to other teams, so they will call." I was disappointed to see a report that said that there was something another executive had commented about on our team. It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm just going to throw it back to you. I kind of just gave the people as well as yourself a little bit of discourse, a little bit of what Ross Atkins thinks about this team. I just want to know where your head's at with these comments he made.
Yeah, I don't know. It's exactly what I thought, to be honest with you. It's other teams asking because how could you not when this Blue Jays team isn't playing up to what everyone expected? This doesn't shock me at all. And of course they don't want to trade them. I really don't want them to trade them either. But I don't know. For him to sort of say that it's not really in the question, they haven't thought about it. You're kidding me that you haven't thought about it? Ross, this is probably your last shot. If you don't make the playoffs, you're gone. And you haven't thought about trades? I don't know. I think that's a little bit, I think it's out there. I think that's him addressing the media because he doesn't want to have to, pay the piper here.
See,
sorry, go ahead.
One thing I find funny about Ross Atkins is that he goes out last season when Jose Brios is pulled early in the game, in the playoff game. Again, doesn't matter. The offense hasn't scored runs. And I think we kind of fooled ourselves into somehow thinking this year's offense would be better. That's not what I want to focus on here. What I want to focus on is Ross Atkins was the first one to throw John Schneider under the bus immediately. after that start and after that decision. And then you look in as well as another comment in this press conference, Ross Atkins goes, it's actually laughable just me looking at it right now. Ross Atkins told us that he is not considering a managerial change and believes that John Schneider has been, in quotations, incredible as part of the solution, not the problem. So clearly, like right there, it's just the most hypocritical thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So how I want to relate this back to the Vladdy and Bo Bichette things is that I'm not taking anything that Ross Atkins says at all with any sort of validity whatsoever. I can see this guy turning around and just flipping one of Bo Bichette or Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because you're right. This is his last chance. Clearly, what we've said multiple times, especially on the 100th episode, a little bit of a tease here. Clearly, this team has not performed good enough. If that's news to anyone, if you love that we haven't gotten a playoff win since 2016, then that's I guess each to their own, because I'm definitely not in that same boat. I want to see at least some sort of playoff success, and Ross Atkins has not been able to do that for this team. Neither has Vladimir Guerrero Jr., neither has Bo Bichette, neither has George Springer. Looking at all of these guys, looking at Kevin Biggio, I guess you can't even necessarily throw this guy in that conversation anymore. It's tough to argue that at least you haven't necessarily even thought about the possibility of moving Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. Do I want to move them? No, I don't, because I've seen multiple superstars get traded. You get the Juan Soto trade, you get Mookie Betts, all these different trades, and they usually don't turn out too well for the team that is giving up their superstar. And at that point, this team would be committing to a full rebuild. I don't care what anyone says. If you trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Bo Bichette, you are rebuilding. That's not a retool. That is you throwing in your cards, you're folding your deck, and you are saying, okay, we're done. I don't have what it takes to beat you here. We're not going to be able to compete. And it sucks to say, and I don't think Ross Atkins should trade these two players, but the fact that he said that they're not even considering it, it hasn't crossed their mind once, is absolute blasphemy to me.
Yeah, it's honestly treating the Blue Jays fans like we're children. And that's what's upsetting, right? When we pour our heart and soul into this team, and that's what most Blue Jays fans do. We're very ride or die. And yeah, we get upset when stuff doesn't go our way because we just love the team that much. And he sort of smacks us in the face. I'm never a guy to call for anybody's job, right? I do understand that a lot of this is tough, and you can't help sometimes if guys just don't play well. But also there has to be an answer. And Ross Atkins is given zero answers. Unless it's BS, which it all has been. The John Schneider thing, Carter, was one of the worst things I've heard. His statement on John Schneider was absolutely just abysmal. It was terrible. It was horrible. I was blown away. There's no way that you can tell me that John Schneider has done a very good job and is part of the solution. That is complete crap. John Schneider's been bad. He's been late to the bit every time. On every decision. This is just terrible. Whatever Ross Atkins says is a complete joke to me right now.
Yeah, it's really hard to take him seriously, but I know I am going to say this. I have been one of the first ones to give John Schneider a hard time. When you look at this offense at this point, like, it doesn't matter who you put where, because really there's not a lot of people on this team hitting right now. John Schneider, unfortunately, cannot go out there and try to hit baseballs himself. So again, this guy hasn't really set this team up for success a lot of the time. Just think about George Springer, think about some of the random batting orders that he's had, his bullpen decisions. I mean, again, you can hang your head on that, but at the end of the day, this team is just not hitting. They don't have a good offense, and you can blame Bo Bichette, you can blame Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for not hitting home runs, but I mean, it's not just their fault. This is an entire team thing. You had George Springer playing like a shell of himself. You have Alejandro Kirk hitting like 210, Kevin Biggio hitting 200, Dalton Varsho, again, he's been good, but not necessarily what you want from him. Again, he's one of the best outfielders in the league. So there's a ton of people you can blame. I don't think it's necessarily John Schneider. I think if you're going to blame anyone, you got to blame the players that are playing on the field. And then you got to blame Ross Atkins for not constructing a very good roster. You look at last year's offense. You realize that they were not good. They were not good with runners in scoring position. They were not good with two outs. And how do you bolster this team? You sign IKF, which has actually worked out pretty well to his credit. But your big move of the offseason is 39-year-old Justin Turner. And again, at that point, I didn't hate the signing because at minimum, you get a veteran presence in this dugout. But when you were in on Shohei Ohtani for $700 million, and it seems like you're not even in on guys like Cody Bellinger, you're not even in on guys like JD Martinez, anyone that was on this market that could have made a difference for you at the plate, it's a tough pill to swallow when we have to. This is what we're stuck with now. We got to watch this offense go out there 162 times a year and just be mediocre at best. But the way I want to wrap this up is I want to go back to Vladdy and Bo and just say my final thoughts on that. Do I think they should trade Vladdy and Bo? I'm going to say initially no, unless you get an unbelievable offer that you like. They have to overpay. They have to overpay for these two players because at this point, you can still retool at the deadline. You can still retool at the end of this offseason because there is major pieces that are going to be free agents at the end of this offseason. Yimi Garcia is one. Yusei Kikuchi is another. Kevin Kiermaier, you can debate if he's a major piece or not. But trading Vladdy, trading Bo, like I always say, the prospects you're going to get in return, they're not concrete. You don't know how they're going to turn out. You pretty much know how Vladdy is. You pretty much know who Bo Bichette is at this point. So I'm definitely on the side of not trading them. I'll give it back to you for your final thoughts on this topic here.
I'm in the same boat. I think there's no possible world where you trading Vladdy and Bo and you get any type of good return, or you're going to sell them for a lower price because no team is going to bait on what they're probably asking for them. So I think this is just a ridiculous thing to even talk about. But just as we are fans, and we've had these conversations about, is it a possibility? And I think it's good to ask those questions. I think it's important to ask those questions. Is this a possibility going forward for this ball club? And just to end it off, Ross Atkins talking that they haven't even thought about this is completely crazy to me, because if me and you have had these conversations, there's no way in the world that they haven't had these conversations. So at the end of the day, no, they won't be traded. I don't think they should be. And just to sum up, this team has a bigger problem than Vlad and Bo, and it's the entire team meshing together. It's the entire organization. It's just nothing's working. It's not working. Something has to change, and I don't know. And I don't think it's a Vladdy and Bo thing. I think this is a Ross Atkins. This might be his final year.
At this point, I think you got to hope that it is. With all, like, what have you gotten from him? I can say this a million times as well. You don't have a playoff win since 2016. That's just definitely not going to fly for a team that has all these World Series aspirations, that has the 8th highest payroll in baseball. Again, it's such a frustrating thing to see when you're promised the world and you get like a rock. That's pretty much where we're at with this team. But saying that, I do want to take this opportunity to throw it over to our Locked On 24/7 streaming channel. You want to watch a better baseball team, you get better analysis on a better baseball team, one that's actually enjoyable to watch. Probably a good time to go over there. Again, the NHL playoffs, Edmonton versus Florida, that's going to be a great series. NBA playoffs as well. We're not as big of basketball guys here, but if you guys are into basketball, perfect opportunity to check out these channels, either on the Amazon Fire TV channel app or Locked On Sports Today to get expert analysis. So we just got some random updates. Finally hearing some stuff on Joey Votto. That guy is actually alive, believe it or not. Got injury updates as well about Francis and who we think will start against Corbin Burns. That's going to be just a tough. Everything about this Toronto Blue Jays team is tough right now. We're going to get into all that coming up. Take care of all your vehicular maintenance needs with our partner, eBay Motors. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. All the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. I haven't told this story on the podcast in a while, but I used to drive a Pontiac Montana. I was one of the first people in my grade to get my license, and that thing was beat up when I got it. So luckily we had eBay Motors to help me out. Got some new parts for my vehicle, kept it on the road a little bit longer so I was able to drive my friends around. My mom didn't like this much, but I loved it. I had the perfect opportunity to load pretty much everyone I could find into my van. So to keep your ride or die alive, you can go to ebaymotors.com. Eligible items apply, exclusions apply, eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers.
Well, Kit, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, I'm looking at the game tomorrow, and I don't know if I can pick who's going to be starting tomorrow. I think let's start here. Then let's getting into the updates. Tomorrow's game. If you had to draw a name out of a hat right now, who's starting today's game? I should say today's game. Sorry, I get all messed up, but today's game.
Yeah, so just based off the rehab starts, based off of injury stuff like that, I don't see a reason why Bowden Francis should not be starting this game. I don't think you want to burn Trevor Richards for how effective he's been in a bullpen that has not been very good to start the season. So again, Trevor Richards can probably keep you alive in the game for a decent amount of time. He'd probably go 3 innings, maybe 4, would be stretching him out quite a bit. But looking at this Baltimore Orioles team, just how big of a juggernaut this offense is, if Trevor Richards throws one mistake changeup, that thing's going to be launched 450 feet into the sunset. So I don't know if I want necessarily Trevor Richards to pitch, but again, then you have Bowden Francis, who hasn't gone against the major league team in over a month. Do you really want to throw him back into the fire against the Baltimore Orioles? I don't really see a very good situation here either or. But I think Bowden Francis would be the better idea. You save your bullpen. Hopefully you would get 3, 4, maybe 5 innings out of Bowden Francis. Again, this guy isn't fully stretched out. So maybe what you would do is you do Bowden Francis, and then right after you throw Trevor Richards. Hopefully you get 6 innings out of that, and then you'll let the rest of the bullpen take care of it. But my money would be on Bowden Francis. I'm not sure if you're in the same boat as me. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Who do you have starting tomorrow or today?
I want to see Bowden Francis. I think that's what everybody wants. Do I necessarily think that's what's going to happen? I could see this being a Trevor Richards bullpen day, and you hope that he goes 4. I don't think that's viable. I think this Baltimore Orioles team against a 2-pitch pitcher is going to, and don't get me wrong, he's good when he comes out of the bullpen, but it's not necessarily to go 3, 4 innings to face this lineup a few times. And I think he gets eaten alive. It would be me walking through the swamp getting eaten by mosquitoes. That would be Trevor Richards today. So I'm praying that it is Bowden Francis, and maybe it has come out by this point when this episode is released or when you're listening to this episode. Maybe it's already determined who it's going to be. I think there's no other person to go to right now than Bowden Francis, and then probably into Trevor Richards. But I don't necessarily know if you can give Trevor Richards a 4-inning start. I just think that's not in the cards against this Baltimore Orioles team, especially against Corbin Burns. I don't know.
I just want to give you one hypothetical. So say Bowden Francis or Trevor Richards, whoever it is, makes a start. What for you, say they go 4 innings, what for you, the amount of earned runs just give me, would be like a satisfactory start. Maybe not something that's blowing you out of the water, but something that would maybe keep you alive, something that you would be happy with if we just said right now, this guy's going to do this tomorrow.
4 runs? Honestly? Wow. Because if they hit 5 runs, the Blue Jays aren't scoring 5 runs. And what we need is hopefully if they go 4 innings, they give up 4 runs, and this team just fights tooth and nail and hopefully pulls out a 5-4 win.
See, I don't see this. This team's just not scoring 4 runs against Corbin Burns. It's not happening. Like if they can get 2 runs against Corbin Burns, I'd be pretty happy. So I think for me in this situation, I would need Bowden or Trevor Richards to only give up 2 earned runs.
That ain't happening.
That's at best. I think Bowden Francis has a better opportunity to do it. Trevor Richards, again, he's been good. I feel like he's just kind of catching strays right now because it's not really a Trevor Richards problem necessarily.
Yeah.
And I know where you're coming from. I think we're in the same boat on this. It's just the Baltimore Orioles offense is just that good.
Yeah, maybe for sure. This is not Trevor Richards' fault at all. He is great at his role, and he's been very effective. But you're a 2-pitch pitcher trying to get put into a starter role when that's not what you're good at. And then to face one of the best teams in the entirety of the MLB, you just don't got a shot.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're going to leave it there. Well, hopefully we get just something that's good enough to keep us in the baseball game. I don't want it to be like the 4th inning and then like you can be at the point where you can turn off the TV. But this guy is almost like a superhero. Like the amount you hear about him, you think he might come in to save the day, but then you never hear anything about him. It's kind of like Batman in a sense. Like maybe we need like a Joey Votto light to shine into the sky to get him to succumb to the Toronto Blue Jays and actually show up at the Rogers Center. But I got some updates about Joey Votto from Shai Davidi, and it's not necessarily what I was looking for, to be honest. So it says Joey Votto is still taking live at-bats and working through a running progression, which I feel like he's probably been doing this entire time. And the kicker here is no time frame yet for him to get back into game action. So the guy's just still lost.
Send him to the moon. If he's not going to play, I don't even want to hear about it then, because this just is frustrating. He twisted an ankle. And don't get me wrong, I get he's old and maybe the bones are crippling. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. This doesn't make any sense in my head, Carter.
For those of you that get this reference, we kind of need like a drink tracker-esque thing to go on for Joey Votto here. We just got to be somebody following around. Maybe like some paparazzi. We need a Joey Votto tracker. I don't know what that's going to take. I mean, maybe there's people in downtown Toronto that just got nothing to do. I don't even know if he's in Toronto. I think he's actually in Florida still. So maybe we need some American fans of this podcast or fans of the Toronto Blue Jays start getting on a manhunt for this guy. Maybe a little bit of man tracker going on. Get your horses out. Get the whips going. Get the lassos out. Whatever you need. Find Joey Votto, get him back on the field. But again, sorry. I do have an update here, and I actually answered my own question. He is in Florida taking live at-bats, and same thing, working on the base running program. So the guy's just kicking it up to Florida, you know? He doesn't want to be at the Rogers Center getting his butt kicked by the Baltimore Orioles. He's living it up, probably with a couple boys, probably having some brews, you know, out there in the hot sun. I mean, you can't really blame the guy. I wouldn't really want to go back to this team either at this point, to be honest. But maybe Joey Votto can somehow put this team over the edge. I think we're all kind of delusional in that sense. But I mean, all we have is hope at this point. We got to rely on some sort of hope here.
The good thing with Joey Votto is he brings one of the things that this team is lacking, and that's the home run ball. He might strike out 1.5 million times, but he's going to hit some home runs for you. And maybe that's a little bit of a jolt. I don't know. But he also, I don't know, he could be in a hospital bed for all I know. He could be getting his leg amputated. I don't know, because there's nothing. This tells me nothing. Chai Davidi, great update. Thanks. Not really, though.
Okay, so I also have just one more. This is just a stat that just encaptures kind of how we've been feeling about this episode. So now, after today's game, that is 25 consecutive games without a run in the first inning for the Toronto Blue Jays, which is a growing franchise record. And if that doesn't encapsulate the entire offensive season from the Toronto Blue Jays team, I don't know what does, man. Because you'd think, in retrospect, when you think about the first inning, your best hitters should be your 1, 2, and 3 hitters. So you think that would probably be your best opportunity to get some runs in the baseball game, especially because the pitcher is not settled into the game yet. Again, I don't care how many warm-up pitches they throw. When they don't have live at-bats until that first inning, you would think that would be the time probably to jump on this pitching, but clearly this team just has not done that.
No, that's frustrating. Holy, is that frustrating. But yeah, I don't got much to say on it. I think that exactly, you summed it up perfectly. It sums up this episode. It sums up probably how all these Blue Jays fans are feeling. Just not going our way. And I don't necessarily know if I have a solution. And that's what's upsetting. Usually me and you come on here and we talk enough that we can come up with something. I don't think there's something that fixes not scoring a run in the first inning for 25 straight games.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to throw George Springer back at the one spot, I don't know. I don't have a solution either here. I mean, just you need home run hitters, maybe. Maybe we need. Sure. Let's throw the house at Mookie Betts. See if we can get Mookie Betts from the Dodgers. Obviously, it's not going to work. But, okay, so I'm just going to rifle through a couple updates here. So, Yariel Rodriguez is slated to pitch out of the bullpen Wednesday in AAA Buffalo. They want to keep him at about 55 pitches. So, that's interesting. Finally, Yariel Rodriguez, a little bit of an update about him. I really want him back on this team. He's such a fun player to watch. And just a guy that we're going to have for a long time. He's slated to be with the Toronto Blue Jays for, I guess, I'll say we're halfway through the year, even though we're not. So, 4.5 more years with the Toronto Blue Jays. I just love watching this guy pitch. He looks like he has such a dog mentality on the mound and a guy that I just miss watching from a fan perspective.
Yeah, and it's hard to miss him because his veneers are shining to the moon. I think I could see them through the TV shining so bright. No, absolutely a fun guy to watch. I will be ecstatic when he returns, especially with the Manoah injury. Bowden's coming off an injury as well. I think it's just you never have enough pieces.
Okay, so again, a quick little Jordan Romano update here. Jordan Romano got an anti-inflammatory shot in his right elbow. He had one in the spring as well when he hit the IL then. So he's slated to avoid throwing for 3 to 5 days and then go from there. I don't really have too much else about that to say. It's been a tough year from Jordan Romano. Give him a little bit extra time to get healthy. Hopefully he can find himself here. And I'm just, like, you have Yami Garcia for right now. Chad Green's been good. If you can get Yari Rodriguez to come back out of the bullpen with Trevor Richards, you got 4 pretty good guys there. Nate Pearson's actually looked good recently, Zach Pop. So I'm not overly worried about the bullpen. I mean, there's one key thing on this team that I'm worried about, obviously, and I don't even have to say it. The fans would know what I'm talking about here. And the other thing is just another update about possible openers for tomorrow. So Ben Nicholson-Smith has the most probable being Bowden Francis, topping out, he says, about 4 innings or 60 pitches, kind of hoping that there's 15 innings or 15 pitches per inning. But he also said Trevor Richards or Henny Cabrera as a possible opener. I hate the Henny Cabrera take. This Baltimore Orioles team absolutely mashes left-handed pitching. I think you're just setting this guy up for failure if you do that. But, Braden, I guess, how do you feel about Henny Cabrera opening?
No. That's it. No. Don't do that. That's terrible. That's a horrible decision. Carter, you know what? I feel like we talked about going short this episode because there's not that much to talk about, and it's just me being disappointed. And maybe I'm a little bit of a I don't know what you call it, a downer today, I guess.
You're a glass half empty guy right now.
I am. And you know what? It's just tough. It's very tough. I'm tired. You're tired. I'm finally thinking I'm getting to the realization that this Blue Jays team isn't a winning team. And it sort of kills me. And today was sort of a little bit, I don't want to say nail in the coffin quite yet, but I'm lying there waiting for somebody to close the lid on me.
Like we said in the last episode, they need to split this series. And now you just made this a whole lot harder because you got Corbin Burns tomorrow and you don't even have a starter picked out. And then you're going to have Kyle Bradish. It's just not going to get easier. And you actually have to score runs. That's the biggest thing. If you're going to score 2 runs a game, you're not going to win a single game this series. I'll tell you that right now. You're going to have to score probably 4 at absolute minimum if you want to win a game. 4, 5, 6, 7 obviously would be way better. But if this team loses this series, or this team, I don't even want to say that. But they got to at least split the series, and then you head to Oakland. I mean, am I feeling that much better about this team if they split the series? Probably not. I mean, I'm just glad that we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot even farther. But if you lose this series or anything worse than that, I think we have a pretty good idea about how this team is going to turn out for the rest of the season. Saying that, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate all the likes, comments, support, all this stuff, especially when the Blue Jays aren't playing the greatest baseball. I'm sure you guys have a lot to say as well. So if you agree or disagree with anything we said, if you want to call us idiots, if you think we are better than God, we just know what the Toronto Blue Jays better than John Schneider does. I hope we actually do, because that's what it seems like. If you think we'd make a better roster than Ross Atkins, if you think you would make a better roster than Ross Atkins, comment that down. What would you do to fix this Toronto Blue Jays team? Before we do head out, one more time, I want to throw it over to the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel. Locked On Sports Today, Amazon Fire TV's channel app, whatever is more convenient for you. Expert analysis. You might as well. You can't go wrong with it. Braden, you got anything else to add? I'm not over the Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, I probably should be over the Toronto Blue Jays, but I would die for this team, unfortunately, for my mental health. But yeah, we need to win. We need to win so badly tomorrow or today. I did it like a million times, but today.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. And I think the worst part is, so I'm heading to New York Friday. When our 100th
Mets game. What a weirdo.
So our 100th episode comes out Friday. So that was a lot of fun. We filmed parts of it already. We haven't completed it yet because we sort of wanted to put a bunch of stuff together. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. I'm in New York. I'm going to watch a Dodgers Yanks game. You might see me, if you see somebody wearing blue in the stands, it's probably me wearing a Jays jersey. So you can look out for that on your television. And then I'm going to see a Mets game. So I don't know if it's going to help my mental health watching a really good baseball team and then a really, really bad baseball team. Maybe the Mets will be like, oh, okay, well, at least we're not the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the feeling I got from the White Sox series. I'm like, this is bad, but it's not the White Sox. But at least the White Sox, they sort of have a direction, I guess. Not really, but they kind of do. There's no expectation there, though, at least, right? The White Sox know who the White Sox are. The Toronto Blue Jays have all these World Series expectations, and they just fail to meet them every single year. If you were fading Toronto Blue Jays bets for the last 10 years, to be honest, you might be a millionaire. And maybe that's something that we should try to get on again. It's very hard for us to bet against the Toronto Blue Jays because we love this team so much. But, I mean, huge game tomorrow. If you go down 0-2, I mean, we'll talk about it when we get there. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow.